Here I am in the countryside outside of Ann Arbor, Michigan with the all-new Civic Hatchback. Today we're going to do a full walk around and drive this 6-speed manual. Beautiful autumn day here, perfect temperature with the perfect car for this beautiful winding road landscape. Even the cyclists are enjoying it out here in the countryside outside of Michigan University, Ann Arbor, home of the Wolverines. Anyways, Civic 2022 hatchback is here, and we need to go over some of the differences on the outside compared to the Civic sedan that I just reviewed last week. Up front is going to be a honeycomb grille, and it's a little bit more snub-nosed in the front compared to the Civic sedan. But yeah, the honeycomb grille is going to be the biggest difference compared to the sedan. Now, as we take a step back, I want to get the beautiful trees. The leaves are changing. It's something I'm going to miss living in South Florida now. Wheels, they're kind of like a split 5-spoke. They're really pretty with a glossy finish on the inside and almost like a machine finish on the inside of that glossy finish, if that makes sense. But they're really, really strong looking wheels, sporty looking wheels in the Sport Touring package. Now down here at the bottom, that's another feature on the hatchback. So you have that additional side skirt there at the bottom to kind of differentiate itself. And just looking at the side profile now, this is definitely the hatchback. It's about 5 inches shorter than the sedan. Now we have chrome window trim on the top of this, on every single trim, but the Sport trim, which is going to have the naturally aspirated 2-liter in it with 158 horsepower, that's going to have black window trim. But the Sport Touring package, the top of the line, what you see here, which is going to be around $30,000, maybe a little bit less before destination, that has the silver trim. Now, this trim also gives you the dual exhaust, which I don't believe is on any other trim. So you get the dual exhaust with this 1.5 turbo. And what's really neat is the rear lights. I love the rear lights. I didn't realize how good they would look in person. Really impressed with them. Of course, we have the Civic emblazoned in the chrome there. As we go across, Sport Touring, there's your badge, looking strong. But yeah, Civic hatchback in, they call this the Sonic Gray. It's got a lot of blue hues to it. It's a very, very good looking hatchback, a little bit shorter than the sedan, a lot sportier looking than the sedan, and that's why this also has a 6-speed manual. So now opening up the hatch of the hatchback, I have a bag in there with all my clothes from the Tundra event. Came straight from that to here, and I'm really happy to bring this to you. So about 24.5 cubic feet of space behind the second row of seats. I haven't folded these down, but we also have a tonneau cover here that retracts very eloquently into the side. Now with the seats fold down, you can really see how much cargo capacity we have in here. Now Honda wasn't able to confirm the exact cargo capacity of the Civic hatchback, but behind the second seats, or the second row of seats, is about 24.5 cubic feet of space. Now that we have a good idea of the exterior and the interior accommodations, let's go ahead and start driving the 6-speed manual. Inside the new Civic hatchback, it's a very familiar interior. We got the honeycomb grille that spans across the dash here. We have the 9-inch touchscreen in this top of the line Touring, and it's just it's a very similar experience to the sedan. Now the back is going to be very similar as well in terms of like legroom, but we just need to start driving this. I've been dying to drive the 6-speed manual in the new Civic. The CVT is good, don't get me wrong, but what we need to do here is test drive the 6-speed manual. Now this has the 1.5 turbo engine with about 180 horsepower, 177 pound-feet of torque, and we're gonna roll onto the road. I don't see any traffic behind me. Starting off in first gear and just let's roll. It's so smooth. This car's middle name should be Smooth. Like, it is unbelievably addicting and refined this new vehicle is. And typically you don't see this sort of refinement in a new generation of vehicle. It takes, you know, maybe a refresh or a few model years to make it feel like, you know, everything's perfected. The Civic hatchback and the Civic sedan, for that matter, just feel like perfectly tuned and perfectly precise vehicles. And this is a pre-production model, and it just feels absolute quality. The country roads here are gorgeous. Now the speed limit isn't that high, so I can't really have too much fun in it. But I'm just going to come to a stop. There's no one behind me, and kind of explain how the transmission works. And by the way, the brakes are out of this world. super good, A+, just like they were in the Civic sedan. So we're coming to a full stop here, looking at my Android Auto, by the way, which is wireless, which is really, really cool. A really nice feature, this 9-inch screen that we have on the top of the line. So put it into first. We're just gonna give her hell, revving it to about 2,500 RPM, and go. Oh, he spun the wheels in second. And there's 60 with a slight uphill. So I'll put what that was on the screen for you guys. I actually brought my my drag meter to test things like that, but it actually spun the wheels with that 177 pound-feet of torque, or 177 pound-feet of torque in second gear, which I wasn't expecting. So really, really fun. It's just smooth. Now, it's not the easiest to shift fast. It does have a little bit of a rev hang, and that kind of takes a little bit of the enjoyment out of it, but not so much that it's not an enjoyable experience. It's still very rewarding, and I haven't played with the downshifts a whole lot. Now, going from fourth to third here, just a little blip of the throttle, a rev matched perfectly there. It wasn't my first try. Like, I'm not an expert when it comes to rev matching, but it's actually pretty easy to do with just a little blip of the throttle and pushing it around this beautiful lake. There's probably a couple loons in there, but I've already caught up to traffic because I'm going faster than I should be on this road. But how can I not in such a fun and rewarding car? Steering wheel feels absolutely top notch, just like it did in the Civic sedan. And those were two bright green colored cars from different manufacturers. That is a strange coincidence with a Ford Focus and a Chevy Spark neon green side by side. That's a strange anomaly there. Now, I got about 25 minutes left of this drive. I'll put what the fuel economy is that I'm getting. You got to keep in mind, I'm also, trying to rev this engine out and have as much fun with it. But when I have like a Cadillac XT5 in front of me, there's only so much fun I'm gonna have. And the speed limits are low. So I'm just really trying to enjoy this drive. Ride quality is good. You feel a little bit of the bumps here, which isn't really surprising for a compact sedan, but it's still really comfortable. But the steering is just so addictive, just like the brakes are. I love getting into the brakes hard and late into the braking. It's a lot of fun because it's so responsive and very predictive, and the steering is just razor sharp. That's a really nice feature. So it's a little bit drizzly today, so the windshield is getting a bit dirty, and the windshield wipers inside of them actually has the window washing fluid. So that actually comes out of the wiper. It's not sprayed up onto the windshield by nozzles on the hood or anything like that. So that's a pretty nice feature there. Oh, this Pontiac Aztek. Oh my gosh. It's such a beautiful environment. Then you see a Pontiac Aztek. Good. Okay, good. Good to go. No cars in front of me. Good to enjoy it, rev it out. So you really have to wait for that engine speed to drop. Like, the rev hang is significant. So it doesn't mean like it takes the fun out of it. You just can't, shift really smoothly while shifting quick. That's the unfortunate nature of that. But it's definitely more tuned for, I would say, commuting than it is for performance. So you're going to need, the SI or the Type R if you really want that quicker shifting persona of the transmission. So I want to talk a little bit about the clutch feel. Friction zone is kind of when about 3/4 of the way out as you're pulling away from all the way down. It's a very soft clutch. Like, you don't really have a lot of feedback from it. Now, the top of the line Sport Touring, which mirrors the Touring package that we see in the sedan. This is pretty much the same equipment. So we have the Bose sound system. We have Android Auto, Apple CarPlay wireless, like I mentioned, with the 9-inch screen. We have heated seats in here. You have the sunroof, and you have the large MID here, the 10-inch MID behind the steering wheel, which is semi-customizable, but it still gives you the traditional rotor or the analog dials, but they're digitalized, so it looks good. I enjoy it, and this also has all the Honda safety sense. If you didn't see my Honda Civic sedan review, I'm a big sucker for this honeycomb grille that goes across the dash. It's metal, it's high quality, and it just looks classy for a car in this segment. And I love how the vent knobs, or should I say the switches, feel to direct the air. And it has that little click when you get back to neutral. That's just pretty satisfying. So Honda's done the small things to make this interior feel a little bit more, or a lot more upscale compared to the outgoing Civic. And it's definitely a more comfortable experience. The seat in here is really, really comfortable, even though I don't have lumbar control. And just like the sedan Touring, we don't have any vents back here for the rear passengers. So that's that's one of the few things I could find to complain about this vehicle, to be honest. The sedan was so good, it really surprised me with its driving dynamics, A+ brakes, A+ steering feel and handling. And the Civic hatchback that we now have, not only does it look better, it gives you more usability with the hatch. We have a little bit different tuning with the suspension. It's very minimal. In the rear, they've given it the stabilization bar that you have on the Touring sedan, but that's standard across all the hatchbacks. But it's very much the sedan, but with a 6-speed manual option and better looks, in my opinion, even though the sedan looks really, really good. Now, just like the CVT models, this has a start-stop feature, which kind of surprised me. So when you come to a stop, you have the clutch engaged. It's going to, well, and even if it's not engaged, if it's in neutral, it'll turn off the engine. And it's not very abruptive at all. It's a very smooth experience. That is creepy. Happy Halloween, right? But that's what Halloween's all about. It's all about the spooks. And we have nothing stopping us here from revving it out, flooring it. Just spinning the wheels, there's 45. So you can get to 45 pretty easy in second gear. But it just surprises me, you spin the wheels going from first to second when you're at full tilt. And the traction's not the greatest right now. It's 62 degrees outside, so that's probably a result of that, but also the large amount of torque in this turbocharged four-cylinder. Now, in the 6-speed manual, some of the safety features are not going to be available on it because it's a manual, so it doesn't have like traffic jam assist, but I'm happily willing to give up a little bit of traffic jam assist in order to row my own gears. It's just so much more fun compared to the CVT. So if you want to drive the manual as smooth as possible, you got to drive it a little bit slow. So I'm going to show you how to do that right now. And by the way, I'm on an uphill, so it holds the brakes for a second so you don't roll back. But as I let off, it's staying, and then I start rolling back. So there's initial downhill or like start assist there. But I'm going to show you how to drive it smoothly with the 6-speed transmission, because it does have a little bit of a rev hang, as I've talked about a lot. So let's just get into first here. So it feels like 1, 2. It's about a 2-second between shifts to make it as smooth as possible for you to rev match ideally as you're accelerating. So that kind of takes a little bit out of the fun, but it is kind of oddly rewarding to get the timing down and the smoothness for those rev matches to happen, if that makes sense. So it's just a little bit of a waiting game to get those rev matches or a smoothing, shifting experience as you're accelerating. Great place to do a 0 to 60 here with the straightaway ahead of me. It's been mostly winding roads, so we're gonna rev it to about 2,500 RPM and go. Man, it shifts. And there is 8 seconds. 8.08 seconds is here, and that's kind of what I was expecting. Now, it's not ideal temperatures. It's only 64 degrees outside, so we got quite a bit of chirping on the acceleration there, but that's okay. And that's where I was expecting. I was expecting anywhere between 7.5 to 8 seconds for 0 to 60 with the 1.5 turbo and the 6-speed manual. And this vehicle is not about the acceleration. If you're more about that, go ahead and get the SI. You can save a little bit of money and probably get the SI. We don't have full details on the new 11 generation SI yet, but this one is it's still fun to drive. You don't need to have really fast 0 to 60s to have an enjoyable driving experience. And yes, I love this 6-speed manual. Even though it might not be the quickest, it has a little bit of that rev hang. Overall though, it's a great manual transmission for everyday driving and commuting. So final thoughts on the new Civic Hatchback. It's really, really good. This to me is like the vehicle people should be buying if they don't need all-wheel drive. Like, I know getting in and out of a crossover is easier, but there's nothing fun about driving most crossovers out there. This vehicle with the 6-speed manual is so good, and there are no weaknesses to it, no major weaknesses, I should say. There's a few things that it could do better, but you know, I'm not going to complain too much about the rev hang, and I'm not going to complain about no vents in the back. So an HRV just pulled out in front of me, and I feel like this is a good segue into finishing this video. So why would you get this vehicle over something like an HRV with all-wheel drive or something like that? Well, if you don't need all-wheel drive, and most of you don't, front-wheel drive is good enough for 99.9% of everyone's use cases. The Civic is a better vehicle in every single way possible than the HRV that's in front of me. It handles like it's on rails. It's accurate like a razor blade as you carve up the turns. The brake pedal is just an A+ execution of solid brake feel, great stopping power in this Civic. And as we get into the transmission, yes, it has a little bit of rev hang, but outside of that, and if you learn to be one with the transmission and its nature, which is tuned more for comfort and smoothness than it is for performance, you're going to really enjoy it. The clutch is light, not the most communicative, but I haven't had any issues. It's going to be really easy for people to learn on if they don't know how to drive a manual before getting this vehicle. And the gearbox here, as you roll through the gears, it's a pretty short throw shifter. My hand rests upon it at all times, like whether it's in like first, third, or fifth, it rests on it really easily. Right now cruising in 6, it just feels at home sitting on the shifter here, and it moves through the gears really, really smoothly, and it's just a really enjoyable experience. It's quite crazy how well refined and how smooth and how good this vehicle is on just about every aspect that I would care about, which is in driver engagement and driver comfort, and this vehicle does it. I really don't feel like it's missing anything, and I'm really excited to see how this translates into, and I haven't even mentioned the engine, but I'm excited to see how this translates into the new Civic Si, which I will be able to bring you guys later this fall. But this engine, the 1.5 liter turbo, is actually really enjoyable, a lot more enjoyable than it was in the CVT when I tested that on the sedan. It is really easy for you to just start off in first gear with a low down torque, and it's just, yeah, you can leave it in one of the taller gears going uphill. You don't have to downshift that much because of that 170 plus pound-feet of torque available at a really low RPM. And fuel economy at this point in time, after about 47 miles of driving, I'm getting about 36 miles per gallon. And you guys know I've been giving this car hell, literally and figuratively. Like I just went through hell, Michigan, on my way up to my final destination, so that was interesting. But anyways, like 36, I just hit 36 miles per gallon. And no, I have not been going that fast. The fastest I've been going continuously would be 55 miles an hour on these country roads, but it's a really smooth experience. And these roads aren't perfect. It is a little bit bumpy, but I'm okay to feel some bumps as long as the steering and the handling is as good as it is in this car. But I'm gonna end it there. Civic Hatchback not only doesn't look good, it drives even better than it looks. You have that functionality of a crossover with the hatchback. You just don't have the all-wheel drive, but this thing is gonna drive leaps and bounds better than just about any other crossover out there, especially for the price point. And yeah, the Civic Hatchback, in my opinion, is the way to go over the sedan. It looks a little bit better. You get more versatility out of it, and you get the option of a 6-speed manual, which to me is definitely the way to go. But everyone has their choices and own opinions. That's why there's also the CVT, which I haven't driven on the which I haven't driven on the hatchback, but it was a really good CVT as they improved it for this 11th generation on the sedan as well. But anyways, I'm gonna end there. I hope you enjoyed my coverage of the Honda Civic Hatchback sport touring 1.5 liter turbo with a 6-speed manual. What an absolute pleasure and joy to drive in these country winding roads and here in central Michigan. But I'm gonna end it there. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Smash the like button if you did. Subscribe for more Honda reviews and news updates along the way. Catch you in the next one. Peace out.